I don't want you to feel sorry for me because I was poor. I want you to celebrate the fact that if I could do it, you can do it. The legacy I'm leaving is I'm making a blueprint where no one has an excuse why they couldn't do something. This immigrant who had cancer, who quit high school, who became a gangster, who went to jail, who went bankrupt, who had no credit. He speaks at Johns Hopkins. He speaks at UPenn with no degree. You know what I said when I first walked in to the UPenn? I didn't even know it was an Ivy League school. I walked in and I said, let me give you my credentials. I have no high school diploma or college degree. So if that's a problem for you, you can leave now. That's how I started. I'm not smart enough to sit here and read notes. I just like saying what's on my heart, and I'm not smart enough to keep up with the lies. So that's why I always tell the truth. The only way to win in life is to be authentic, be yourself, and be transparent.
Today, I'm sitting down with John Kim. In 2017, John Kim took a very radical step in an attempt to transform his life for the better. He sold his business, he sold his home, and then he became homeless. And he took all the money he received from selling all of his possessions, and he went all in on cryptocurrency. Along the way, his wife divorced him, but his son has become his biggest supporter. John has been a strong advocate of Litecoin, which is an alternative cryptocurrency. John has ignored the Bitcoin maximalists who have called him reckless and stupid for buying what they call a shitcoin. But John Kim has transformed his personal brand, his identity, his thinking, and his net worth, and today he's known as Johnny Litecoin. John's journey has been not so easy, going all the way back to his childhood in South Korea. Today we will explore John's background, his childhood, his struggle, his sacrifices, and we'll learn a very special story on how he pulled through all this adversity to get him on the other side to where he is today. We will also explore why he didn't just buy Bitcoin and why he believes in Litecoin and other cryptocurrencies. I've enjoyed John's tweets, his viral videos, his podcast with Ben Askren and Jason Williams, the Funky Podcast, and John is a big voice in the crypto space. He has a very energetic and magnetic personality. So when I had the chance to bring him on my show to explore what makes him tick, I couldn't pass up the opportunity. I truly enjoyed this conversation, and I think you will too. So with that said, let's dive in to Johnny Litecoin. John, welcome to the show.
What's up, my man? What's up, Jay?
What's up, man? All right, listen, everybody comes on the show. I ask them who their top 5 in their life are. So, back in the day, T-Mobile had the top 5 people. They say you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most in life. So these days, who you been surrounding yourself professionally the most with, outside of family?
The founder of Litecoin, Charlie Lee, founder of AMP, Flexon Network, Tyler Spalding, Ben Askren, the UFC fighter Olympian, Jason Williams, the serial entrepreneur who has been so successful but yet so humble, right? I've spent time with him and he inspires me in so many ways. And lastly, you, man.
Today it's me.
Because you're an overcomer. You're an overcomer, bro. I love you, man.
Okay. Let's go back to your early years growing up, right? So why don't you tell us about your early years, your childhood, where did you grow up, socioeconomic kind of conditions, what did your parents do for a living? Tell us a little bit about John as a kid.
Yeah, man. I was born and raised in South Korea, and at the time, South Korea was really poor, especially the city that I was living in. I didn't know what poor meant because everybody around me was so poor, right? So I remember we lived in this like 8x8 like hut, and you had to put charcoal underneath the floor to heat up the room in the winter because Korea has a really bad winter. And many people would die because they forget and the smoke would fill. And so there was a lot of people that were dying because of that reason. And we had no shower system, no bath. We would put water in this big bucket, and me and my sister would take a shower with cold water. And at night, like whenever I have to go to the restroom, I have to walk in this dark alley where there's a hole in the ground. There's a bunch of maggots, right? And you're just sitting there and you're squatting and you're just trying to finish your business as fast as possible because you feel like these maggots are going to crawl up on you. So that was my childhood. But I didn't think that I was poor. Everybody lived that way, and
It's all the same. Yeah.
yeah, and my dream was to sleep on a bed one day before I die. That was my simple yet great dream that I had that one day I will reach. So it was tough, but it was it was no different than anybody around me. So I accepted it.
And did your siblings, your parents, did everybody move to America at some point, or did some of them stay back? Like, how did that work out? The transition to America?
So my dad, he was a gangster in Korea. Like he realized that
Like real gangster?
yeah,
Okay.
and he realized that the only way that we could his kids could survive or to thrive was to go to America. So he filed for work visa, and Arkansas chicken farm granted him. So he came on a work visa and worked at a chicken factory in Arkansas. And then like a year later, he got his green card, and then he invited us. And then that's the first time I came to America when I was 7 years old.
7 years old. Okay. And how old do you have siblings? How old?
I have two siblings, three siblings now. One is 1 year older, and the second one is 4 years younger, and the other one is like 15 years younger than me. She
Mm.
was born in America, but my second sister got in a car wreck, and she has been disabled for a long time now.
Wow.
So my older
That's
sister
tough.
takes care of her. So, and here's another thing. I know I'm kind of off track, but the reason I love America is that what people don't realize is if you have a disabled sister, you have front parking, right? There's handicap spaces, right? And people don't understand like how big that is. In my country, there is nothing like that for the handicap.
Really?
There isn't this code when you build a building where a wheelchair can turn around, right? None of that. You don't get free parking in the front because you're disabled. So I just realized so many times in my life that America is such a great country to live in if you're an underdog. It gives you a chance, especially if you're disabled. You don't have to find parking. You can literally park right in front of the store and walk in. So every day, man. I don't know about all you people out there, but
No,
I'm
you
just
feel
very
the
great.
gratitude because you came from nothing.
I'm
You
so
get it.
grateful for America. I'm
Yep.
so grateful for America. Yeah.
I love that. I want to discuss the relationship with your father. I'm a father, so I've been recently asking people on the show to talk about fatherhood a little bit. How your relationship with your father has impacted you both personally and professionally, and also what do you feel are good values that make up a good father? Because you're a father yourself.
So in my country, you don't ever tell your kids you love them. You don't hug. You don't kiss. You don't do anything. There's not really touching. You just know that they love you, right? But when I was a child, I was playing football, and my parents were always just too busy. Because think about coming with nothing and being a janitor at night and doing siding in the morning and afternoon. So they're just basically working all the time, and I've never really had a relationship with my father, but I
Hmm.
knew one thing. I knew he had this crazy work ethic that I saw every single day. And maybe he did not have a huge impact on my life as far as like loving on me and encouraging me, whatever.
Sure.
But kids don't do what the parents tell them to do. They do what they see their parents do.
Yes.
So I one day I was driving with my dad, and he said, I'm sorry for not having a lot of money to where I can help you with your endeavors and stuff like that. I said, Dad, the best gift you ever given me was your DNA. The DNA that says nothing is impossible. DNA that says I will not quit no matter what. And I've seen you do that. And for me, I don't need money from you. I just needed your DNA. And it's the same DNA I'm passing on to my children. And that work ethic, that DNA is going to become a winner in the end because nobody will be able to compete with me as far as hard work is concerned because I'm willing to die. You know what I mean? So my dad risked his life, risked his reputation, risked everything to give me this opportunity. So I don't need money from him. I'm just grateful that he is my dad.
Is he
And
alive still? Has he seen your success recently?
yeah, 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 yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I,
That's
I
great.
take care of him. Yeah.
Tell me who the show is Docents, right? And I just told you before, but I defined a docent as people that inspire influence and guide others. So docents, in my opinion, are the most relentless people on this planet. They are the high achievers that everybody that aspires to be like. They basically have a blueprint for you to follow if you pay attention very carefully. The guys like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or Tom Brady, they're easy to see and understand. Like they can see they're putting in the hard work. You can see the hard work they're putting in. You can see the accomplishments on the field. And business is a little harder. People see the end result and they're like, wow, it looks like an overnight success. But it takes a long time and a lot of trials and tribulations to get there. Who were your docents growing up that you looked up to? And this could be parents, family, friends, as well as the public figures that I've just mentioned.
Man, I don't really have too many that I looked up to, because I had leukemia as a child. So when I was getting chemotherapy and my hair was falling out all the time and kids would pick on me and whatever, I didn't want to depend on anyone else. I just wanted to know if I could, by myself get up or overcome the difficulties and the tribulations that I was
Mm-hmm.
facing. So I don't know, man. After high school, when I quit high school, I never did any kind of team sport. I didn't want to rely on anyone. I always knew if I failed, it's my fault. If I succeed, it's my fault. I'm not gonna let somebody else dictate, you know,
Mm.
um, my success, right? So I, I don't think I've had anyone that I really looked up to, but I was in a dark place to where I said to myself, listen, like no one's gonna be here for you in the long run. You're just gonna have to overcome and do what you gotta do to make it. So yeah, I don't think I have anyone that I really looked up to.
You just said it, and I also read that you dropped out of high school. You quit high school at the end, and you were in America when you did that. Number one, I'd like to understand the thinking at the time, why you did that, and then how that may have impacted you. Because I also read that you had like low-paying jobs. Usually, guys that don't have a high school degree or college degree, they don't get paid as much. But then you borrowed $10,000 from your father to start that first business, and you grew into 9 cell phone locations. Why don't we talk about that journey from having nothing in South Korea, coming to America, and then quitting school, and then realizing that probably wasn't the best decision because you can't get a good job. But then you figured it out, bro. You figured out how to get from that point to where you're at now. Can you take me through that journey of how that happened?
They call me the cancer kid, right? Like, because I was wearing a hat. I was the only one that could wear a hat in school. They knew that I had, I was going through chemo and whatever. And I was always like in the nurse's office because I didn't want to kind of running from the
Sure.
bullies and didn't want to be picked on. And, you know, what girl's gonna like a bald kid, right? With leukemia, right? So I wasn't in a good place. And this one time I was playing dodgeball, and this kid was 6'2", was a center of our basketball team. He threw a ball at me, broke my glasses. Think about this. I, I was on prednisone, so I was this fat little kid with glasses and everything. And the next game, I threw the ball at his face, and he started chasing me, and I was running for my life, man. This big Goliath, this 6'2" black dude was just following me, running up. I was running, and one of my friends, my black friends, said, "John, stop being a p word,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And something just triggered at that time, and I stopped, and he was running, and I just picked him up, threw him on the ground, and I was, you don't know how you fight when you're young.
You're doing a
Yeah,
little
I'm
Ben
just hitting,
Askren on his ass.
yeah, I'm just punching him in his face and beat the crap out of him. I've never been the same again. I said to myself, that was probably the greatest fear that I faced so far, more than leukemia, because this was an actual man trying to come get me, and
Yeah.
I was running, and I stopped, and I confronted, and I realized this other side of the fear, right? It's like this freedom, this release that happens when you actually stand up to the one thing that you think is going to end your life, right? So after that day, my mind changed, and then throughout my high school, I just felt like I just didn't belong in school, right? So I quit beginning of my senior year, and then I got into life of crime.
Mm.
I got into organized crime, and I was fighting every day just about.
What state were you living in? You're in the South, right?
In Texas, yeah, in Texas, yeah, yeah. There was this huge Korean gang that we started when I was younger, and I think I had like 60 people under me at one time, and I did a lot of stupid stuff.
What?
We,
How did all those guys end up? Those guys you used to hang out with?
some of them are dead, some of them are in Pelican Bay, some of them are in prison, and some of them are addicted to, um, crack,
Yeah.
meth, all that. But I remember just like going to jail all the time, and my last bond was $80,000 because it was like, you know, um, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and they consider my feet a deadly weapon. So
Why is that? You know martial arts? Is
no, because I had Timberland boots on when I was beating the guy, and it
you
was
stomping
completely,
them?
yeah, it was gray, but it was red, so they considered. So I went to like Dallas County, Austin, Austin County, like Travis County, like kept going to jail, in and out, and I just it was hard. And then in 2007, my first son was born, and it was crazy, dude. It was like he was born. I remember when he was born, I looked at him and I said, "You haven't done anything for me right now. You're just born. You're breathing. The only thing I know is that you're mine. You came from me. Why do I feel like I can literally die for you if you needed me to right now?"
Isn't it amazing? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, where is this love coming from? What the hell kind of love is? Because I thought love was like when you like a girl, right? And you wanna kiss her and you wanna date her, whatever. But this love was so powerful that I
Hmm.
just something in my mind clicked and said, I have to change my life. So in 2008, I sold everything and I went into a missionary organization called YWAM, Youth with a Mission.
Hmm.
And I remember when I went there with like $200, and they said, "Why are you here?" And I said, "I want to know what love is." And I heard God is love, and I came here to learn what love is because I want to be a better father, you know. And that changed everything. Um, and then 2009, I I wanted to know, right? I wanted to know uh, if God was real. So I went into a prayer mountain and fasted for 40 days. And
Wow.
on the 23rd night, I received my encounter. I don't want to talk about it, but I encountered my experience, my answer, because I wasn't going to eat until I had the answer. So for 23 days, I lost 40 pounds drinking only water, just praying, and I got the answer. And on the next day after the 23rd night, the pastor of that place came to me and said, "It's time for you to end your fast." He didn't talk to me one time. And then the next morning, he said, "It's time for you to end your fast," which I already knew I was going to end my fast. So, what I learned from that was my son changed how I wanted to live my life. And it was the love that I felt that made me want to change my life. And, you know, it's crazy, right? Like when I say my willpower is on another level than another human being, I mean, if I say I'm not gonna eat, I'm not gonna eat for 23 days.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and I've done that again 21 days. And it's like
Hmm.
in life when you grew up poor, and when you grew up with cancer, and when you grew up being picked on, like everybody, so many people use those things as an excuse to not kill it in life. For me, I am so grateful for all those things, because if it wasn't for all those crazy things that happened to me, like just being in jail and realizing I lost my freedom, and I'm in there with 40 other people, and the first day I walk in, I check the biggest black dude in the room, and then I'm like, you know, I'm over
What's up?
here like, and now they're bringing me cigarettes and they're all being nice to me because I checked the biggest dude. So it's just weird. In every situation, I find a way to not be a victim, to arise. And so I really appreciate cancer. I really appreciate those bullies. I know this is a different school of thought, but we need bullies in this world, because
Toughen you up.
bullies gave me a chance to stand up for myself and change the trajectory of my life, right? like who else would give you that chance? If when I had cancer, I was so used to people babying me that I became so soft that I would run away to the nurse's office all the time when things got tough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that 6'2" dude that challenged me, and now like ever since then, I will step up to any man. I don't care how big you are, and I will put you
Even
to
Ben.
sleep. I mean, except for Ben. maybe in a boxing match. I'm kidding, Ben. But I am not grappling that man. Yeah, I'm not grappling that man.
That's a
Yeah,
dangerous,
yeah.
dangerous activity.
I may box him and kind of win. I don't know.
He's not allowed to shoot on me.
No. It's like that. And that's why I'm so frustrated with society right now.
Yeah.
Like I don't want you to feel sorry for me because I was poor. I want you to celebrate the fact that if I could do it, you can do it. Like I've been a proponent of that. My whole Twitter, my social media is like, Jay, I never got paid to promote anything. And I left so much on the table because I refused to, because I feel like this is a legacy that I'm leaving.
Mm-hmm.
The legacy I'm leaving is I'm making a blueprint where no one has an excuse why they couldn't do something, right? I have no high school diploma. I spoke at Johns Hopkins and UPenn. How the hell is that possible, right?
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Let me think about it, right? This immigrant who had cancer, who quit high school, who became a gangster, who went to jail, who went bankrupt, who had no credit, who was an outcast, right? And he speaks at Johns Hopkins, he speaks at UPenn with no degree. You know what I said when I first walked in to the UPenn? I didn't even know it was an Ivy League school. This is a funny story, bro. I walked in and I said, let me give you my credentials. I have no high school diploma or college degree. So if that's a problem for you, you can leave now. That's how I started it.
I love it.
So after I ended, Charlie Lee calls me and says, how do you feel about speaking at a prestigious university without a high school diploma? And I said, what do you mean prestigious? He said, bro, that's an Ivy League school. I'm like, bro, why didn't you tell me that? Because I thought it was like UT Arlington or, I thought it was just some state school, right? Because I've never been to college. I don't know what Ivy League school is. And Charlie Lee said, no, I'm glad I didn't tell you because you're your best when you don't prepare, right? So that's why I do all my live streams live and stuff like that off the cuff, because I'm not smart enough to sit here and read notes. I just like saying what's on my heart, and I'm not smart enough to keep up with the lies. So that's why I always tell the truth. People think I'm trying to like virtue signal or something. No, I'm just so dumb that I cannot keep up with the lie. And Twitter is so public, they're gonna get you eventually.
They'll catch your ass anyway.
Yeah, I'm always gonna shoot from the heart, and people are gonna know that I'm real and authentic, and that's the message I want to tell people, that the only way to win in life is to be authentic, be yourself, and be transparent.
Yeah, my mother taught me a couple things, and a lot of things, but the couple things that really resonated with me, which is whatever you start, never quit. You got people that depend on you, you have to finish. That's number one.
Right.
And honesty is the most important thing. She said the same thing you said. She's like, you're not going to be able to keep up with the lies. If you lie to people, even the white lies as they call it, never lie. Always be 100% transparent and honest with people, and they'll respect you. And I've always done that. I don't lie. And
even when you do lie, right? Sometimes you accidentally lie.
You might fabricate a story, and then you're like, I went a little too far on that. And then I backtrack it. I'm like, that's not exactly true.
Yeah.
I do that.
Then,
if I catch myself, I say that.
Yeah. You always correct yourself, or you go up to that person and say, hey, man, I lied. I
stretch the truth a little on that story.
Stretch a little bit. And when you do that, you keep yourself accountable, then it becomes less and less and less over time. So yeah, your mother is a great woman, a wise woman. Wise,
no doubt.
Yeah.
Bring me through the part where, and by the way, John, I love the transparency that you provide. I saw it on another podcast too. Absolutely love it. It's very inspiring. And we need more of these stories, right? Like instead of the kid who's the pedigree, went to the private schools, went to Harvard, became a VC banker. It's like, give me a fucking break. It was like laid out for the guy, right? You had to fight for it. That's what I love about you. You borrowed that money, right? And you started that store. Get me through that journey. I want to understand what made you see that. How did you get that opportunity? And how did you know you would succeed? And how did you succeed? Because you did pretty well. You and your wife ended up having 9 locations, I think, right? You had 9 locations for cell phone locations.
Yeah. So 2012, I did a a homeless ministry for 3 years. I lived in my sister's living room for 3 years, no privacy. A man had no privacy. It's pretty bad. So 3 years, I was just living in my sister's room, feeding. I started with one homeless person, started feeding 1,000 homeless people a week, and never got paid, never asked for donations. I just wanted to know if it could be done. And I lived in a homeless shelter for 2 months before I started the homeless ministry, just to feel how it feels to be living in a homeless shelter. Because I truly believe if you never walked it, you can't guide anyone, right?
Yep.
That's what's wrong with politicians these days, because they never walked it and they just talk, right? So after that, I just felt like after 3 years, I graduated from helping the poor, because I realized most of them will not change because they're set in their ways.
Mm.
And my thought was, I got to go make money. And if I really want to change someone's life, I'm going to have to, help children who are abandoned, children who doesn't have parents. So in the future, that's my plan, is to help children, because you can actually change the trajectory of their lives. And then I borrowed $10,000 from my dad, and my ex-wife at the time. I just met her, and she was in the cell phone business, and she said iPhone's gonna come to prepaid. So I just ran with it, and I opened three right away. Just it was so bad. It was just carpet, two glass cases, you know. And then I remember going to my dealer. So I opened my first business in 2012 and opened 15 businesses in the next 5 years,
Wow.
sleeping for 4 hours a day, because I didn't have a high school diploma. I didn't have money. I didn't have anything. So I said to myself, in my simplicity, like they call me the simple man with a simple plan. In my
Yeah.
simplicity, I said, okay, I just have to run faster, harder, sleep less, and I'll catch up, right? And I remember going into my cell phone store, my master dealer, and leaving with like 3 phones a day. I would just pick up 3 phones and go, because I wasn't selling anything. And then later on, I was leaving in carts. After one of my store became top five in the whole DFW. And it was an incredible journey, because like my first three I opened, it didn't do well. It didn't do well
And
at
you kept
all.
at it.
I kept at it. I was pitching tents every day, running around. I remember taking two shirts to work, because I was passing out flyers at the grocery store, and then I would be so hot it would get drenched, and then I'd come back, wear the next T-shirt, and work. So I just did all that, and then it didn't work out. And then all of a sudden, this my broker calls me and says, "Hey, there's a spot in Fort Worth that my friend just bought. You should come check it out." I said, "Listen, three of my stores aren't even doing well. I don't have any money or the credit to freaking, do another one." He says, "No, no, I've been praying about this, and I feel like this is you." So I reluctantly go. It was a T-Mobile store, completely decked out, and it was closed because they couldn't get licensed on that location. So they did all that work. It was closed down. They stopped paying rent. The new landlord came in and locked the doors on them. And I found the
Wow.
new landlord son. He was addicted to meth, and he was one of the many that I helped to get to the father's house and get help with addiction and like that. So the world, like, it works crazy, right? Who would have thought that when I decided to help this kid become better with addiction, that his father would buy a building, and
That's
in
not a
that building
coincidence.
would be a
Yeah.
T-Mobile store. So what happened was, I
Yeah.
said, "Listen, I can fill out this paperwork. I doubt that I'm going to get approved, and I don't have the money, right?" So I just filled it out. The next day, approved, right? And I go in. I Bro, check this out. T-Mobile was pink. It's window tint
Yeah.
on the glasses,
Yeah.
right? I'm taking blow dryer, taking all the pink stuff off. I go to Walmart, bro, and I buy extra large orange bed sheets, because I had a Boost Mobile at the time. Boost Mobile was like an
Yeah.
orange thing.
Sure.
So I go buy a bed sheet, extra large bed sheet, and I put it behind the plexiglass, and just changed just one thing from pink to orange, and left everything there, right? And I think I spent $5,000 to open that store up, right? and
Yeah.
it went top 10 in the next 3 months. It was the
Wow.
killer location where I sold it for like pretty six figures. Yeah. So that's when I realized that my destiny even though I worked hard, sometimes my success wasn't in my hands, and it had to do with someone above.
Yeah, that's not a coincidence that you helped that kid and that kid, right? Like, just you can't. I mean,
Yeah,
is it a coincidence? Possibly, but I don't
yeah,
think so. I
I
don't
doubt
think so.
it.
No.
Yeah. So that's what launched me into getting like a whole bunch of more stores and becoming a diamond dealer. I was if you're a diamond dealer, you're selling a lot of cell phones.
Hmm.
And I bought a house, got married, all that good stuff.
Yeah,
And
and that was in what 2018. You did that, right?
no, that was from 2012 to 2017.
Got it. So 2012 to 17, and then in 2017 you discovered crypto, and then you and your wife started to buy Bitcoin and Litecoin. When and how did you get into the crypto space? Like, what did you see that made you? What was your first introduction to it? Did you see something online? Did a friend tell you? And then how did you get so much conviction so fast? Because very quickly thereafter you were kind of all in. So let's go through that.
So I move by conviction. If I lack money, if I lack that doesn't stop me. Like I'm convinced of something and I go all in. That's both my gift and a curse. When I go all in, I can't see anything else. I'm
Yeah.
just laser focused. And that's, I think, most entrepreneurs, the laser focus. Yeah. In 2017, like early, I started to fall in love with a calculator for some reason. Like I suck at numbers. I suck at math. Okay, I'm the only Asian that like literally sucks at math, right? And I started playing with the calculator, and I looked at all my businesses, and I started calculating my time versus when I could put $1 million cash in my hand, not my net worth, but just like straight up $1 million. And I realized that it's pretty impossible um, for me to put that in my hand with all the businesses and the cash flow, and it's going back into the business and everything like that.
Yeah, 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 totally.
And then I realized that I was living an addition life, like plus 5,000 here today or plus 20,000 here today. And I realized that the only way that I could really kill it in life is to live a multiplication life. And that was like an understanding that I got as I was playing with the calculator, that the only way I don't have the time to live an addition life if I want to kill it, and if I want to retire, if I want to take care of my kids, like where they're taken care of. And then I looked at everything I was doing, and I had a nervous breakdown. I had like patches of bald spot on my head because of stress. Yeah, because think about it, running like 15 businesses. Listen, you can do it, but you shouldn't do it, right? Because like that's why I would never, Jay. I
You're
would
making a
never open.
sacrifice when you do that.
Yeah, and you don't even know you're making a sacrifice because you're
No.
so hardcore
Yeah.
focused, right? You don't care about your wife, you don't care about anything but succeeding, right? So I
Yeah.
realized, man, I was giving up so much to grow this businesses, and I was like, and and the starting line is so far back. Like everyone in this business, like who has a degree, who has got money from their parents, whatever, they started the race so far ahead of me that it would literally I would have to die trying to catch up, and I would never catch up to them.
Right.
And I looked at crypto and I said, wow, they're not that far ahead. They just left. I could still see them in this race. And I said, you know what? I know I can bet on one thing: my work ethic and my willingness to suffer and my willingness to not quit, my willingness to freaking go when they're tired, when they're asleep. I know what I'm made of. I know what I've come from. And I know these Bitcoin nerds can't hang with an alpha male like me. That's what I was thinking. Like, these are all computer nerds playing on the computer. And I was like, and when I first decided to sell everything and go all in, I said this. At the time I was on Twitter because I didn't know where punctuations went. Like, I don't know how to formulate a proper sentence. So I said, I'm going to go on Twitter. I'm going to start posting, and people are going to make fun of me. And I love humiliation because humility comes from the word humiliation. In order for me to be humiliated, then I become humble, and then I learn, right? So I started Twitter just to learn how to tweet right. Just know when, when you can say your and your, right? And then and then I realized that I was in a space where I was disqualified. Everybody was like computer scientists and all these people, and I
There's a
said,
really there's really a lot of smart people in crypto, no doubt.
yeah, yeah. And look, I'm brutally honest with myself. That's one of my gifts, which meant, okay, I can't compete with these guys in tweet. I can't compete this guys in coding. I can't compete with these guys in trolling. I said, you know what? I'm gonna do what I do best. I'm gonna sell everything. I'm gonna get in my truck and I'm gonna push for adoption and make videos. And I made this quote: "The world does not need more information. They need a demonstration." And I left because I want to demonstrate to people that crypto is usable. Crypto, you can actually live off of it. Crypto, you can actually receive payments and buy stuff with it. And that's when I started my Litecoin 30 for 30 tour in my truck, driving to 30 cities in 30 days and pushing for adoption, getting business to accept Bitcoin and Litecoin as payment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you went down the rabbit hole super deep. Eventually, like you said, you went all in. You sold
Yeah.
everything, including your home, your businesses, which in part led to a divorce with your wife. And, I interview a lot of high achievers on this show, John. A common theme that I see, what you're talking about, are the sacrifices that people make on their journey to success. That's the most common thing I'm seeing. And there's a lot of sacrifice because you have to go all in. You have to be completely obsessive about your behavior to get there. You are the epitome of making sacrifices with the stuff you're telling me. It impacted you on your personal relationships, your wife. Can you take me down that path with your wife and what happened there? Like, she didn't share that vision, I guess. She was complacent with the businesses and what your lifestyle was, but you weren't, right?
She knew how I am. That's one of the things
She
she was
knows what she
attracted to
signed
me.
up for.
Yeah, yeah. I'm either all in or all out. I don't do the whole middle thing, right? I'm either 100% passionate or I'm 100% not, and when the crypto bug got me and I knew, and I told you about the calculator, this was the
Yeah.
only way that I could live on a multiplication life and I can actually start the race and catch up. That was my conviction. That was everything that I needed to know because yes, they may be unhappy for several years, but in the end, I'm doing this to make sure their future is secured.
Yeah.
But she didn't understand it, and I get it, right? Like I'm not gonna make excuses. I failed as a husband. I failed as a father because I decided to go all in on something that could could have been a very bad decision, right? Like right now, it turned out very well, and we're friends now. But at the time, I looked very incompetent because I had no background to back up what I was doing, right? I just jumped in and I was posting these videos on Twitter and it was barely getting any views but I just wanted to like be authentic and be real and I knew that if I did it long enough people would see through it and be able to like really like understand me and support me. So and she's one of those people like my ex, she's one of those people that even in hotels, in like really nice hotels, she would never walk barefoot. She's very like clean. She doesn't play around with germs and stuff like that. So for me to leave and sleep on like sleeping like roach motels in my truck, and I mean, there's no way she was down for
She
that.
checked
Plus,
out.
yeah, yeah. Plus, we had a kid, so. But I don't want to get into the details because it's her personal life. But I gave the proceeds of the house to her, and now she has a Korean barbecue restaurant that is doing very well, very well. I mean, the last numbers I heard were pretty
That's
astonishing.
great.
Yeah. So we're both happy. We both realized, hey, you did well, I did well. It's all good. We'll call it even, Steven. And then now we're co-parenting. Yeah, yeah.
Until
We're
crypto
co-parenting.
continues to go.
Yeah, yeah.
um, I want to ask you about Litecoin, right? You get a lot of heat, I'm sure, on Twitter from the maxis, the Bitcoin maxis. Why not just buy Bitcoin and hodl it? Like that part escapes me. So you learned about Litecoin. Obviously, you're talking to the founder of Litecoin and stuff. It's kind of interesting. But like speed is a lot of times they say because of transaction speed. But then the Lightning Network comes out. Doesn't that solve the problem for speed? What is I guess, what was it, an opportunity maybe in Litecoin? Because you could become the face of Litecoin, not the total face, but like you could rise up a little bit. So basically you transformed your identity. You're Johnny Litecoin, right? Like, or do you fundamentally truly believe that Litecoin is the true sound money that can completely displace Bitcoin over time? Explain the differences to me in your mind about Litecoin versus Bitcoin, and because the Maxis will say it's a shit coin. Like, why is he promoting a shit coin?
I know a lot of Maxis. I've met a lot of Maxis, and I love most of the Maxis behind the scenes, but
Yeah,
they have this narrative to push, because now I tweeted this the other day. Now the Maxis, even if they don't want to be a Maxi, then they, as soon as they
they're afraid
become
of the
like
other Maxis.
yeah, and they get crucified, and there's so many people that are sick of it, but they have to keep doing it because you can't go back once you're
Yeah,
not a Max
I'd be
anymore.
honest with you, John. I hate the hypocrisy. And Jason and I talk about this, and we've been coming out there about the frogs and everything. You see us on Twitter, right? And we're like, fuck these guys. I mean, cut the shit already. Like, it's so stupid because we talk to these guys privately too, and they're buying frogs. I'm like, give me a fucking break. I'm not going to name names, but a lot of them are. Okay. It's bullshit, right?
Yeah, they're all doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes and acting like virtue signaling on
Yep.
Twitter. But let me tell you about why Litecoin, man.
Yeah, please.
I think one of the most important qualities in a person, in a car, in anything is reliability, right? You can't buy reliability. You can't code reliability. You can't buy history, right? And Litecoin has been zero downtime, 100% uptime for 10 years since its inception, 2011.
Mm.
It's the most reliable network, reliable blockchain, proof of work blockchain in the world. Bitcoin had to start 2 blocks back. It's 99.98%. I've never heard a man says I used to be perfect. It's either you're perfect or not perfect, right? So for me, when I looked at the Litecoin network and the blockchain, and when I was giving money to people on the streets, when I was out there promoting, adoption of pay with Litecoin and stuff like that, and it's just instant, and it's not instant because it's some proof of stake, some I swear is decentralized cryptocurrency. It's king of script, okay, just like Bitcoin is king of SHA-256, and it doesn't compete with Bitcoin. It doesn't compete with Bitcoin miners. It doesn't try to take the name Bitcoin. It's Litecoin, silver to Bitcoin's gold. So when Charlie invented it, he understood the power. I remember he told me, Charlie Lee was coding at 9 years old. This guy
Wow.
went undergrad on MIT, which means undergrad MIT is like the Navy SEALs, okay? And then he got masters at MIT. So this is like genius level kid, right? And he said when he looked at Bitcoin code, he could not believe it, that it was so perfect, right? And the fact that it would actually work, and it actually worked. So when he copied the source code of Bitcoin and made
Yeah.
Litecoin, right? The brilliance behind that move, everybody would say whatever they say, but the brilliance behind that move is this, Jay. He said, why would I fix something that's not broken? Why would I not use something that was perfectly designed but was a little bit too slow, right? So he copied the source code and made Litecoin. And guess what? People say Litecoin doesn't have too many developers. Bitcoin developers are all Litecoin developers, because whatever they update, we just implement into Litecoin. It's that easy. If you look at mastering Bitcoin, whatever, right? Antonopoulos, but you can
Yeah.
literally copy the whole book, and you just have to change Bitcoin to Litecoin and the supply, and it'd be the same. Basically the same book. So what happened was Charlie made a way to where you didn't need developers because Bitcoin had the best devs, right? So you were getting free free updates from Bitcoin. You just have to, implement it into the Litecoin. So
But let me ask you a question. Did the world need it? Like, do we need Litecoin? If you have, it's the same thing, right? So why do you need it? Like, the money's escaping Bitcoin that would otherwise be there. That's gone into Litecoin. It would just be better for Bitcoin if it had not existed, I guess, right? For Bitcoin, maybe not for Litecoin, but for Bitcoin.
here's the reason. I own Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. Bitcoin is king, always will be king. If Bitcoin it dies, everything freaking dies with it, right? So
Yeah.
I always tell people, even Charlie says it, buy one Bitcoin before you buy Litecoin. That's been our thing ever since. Like, we do not sit here. I think you're a scammer if you tell people not to buy Bitcoin and put your whole net worth into some scam coin or an altcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
But having Bitcoin made me realize one thing: I never want to spend it. I never want to spend it. I don't even think about spending it. I don't even look at my cold wallet. I just know it's there, and I don't even want to mess with it. I don't want to be tempted. I just know where it's gonna go. And I believe that Litecoin is that coin that's also a store of value, but it's a means of exchange. Until, people say it won't scale, right? It won't scale. But every time I run a credit card, it takes me about a minute to sit there, stick my credit card in. No, no, you want cash back? No. And then I said this PIN number, boom, boom, boom. Litecoin literally is spendable after about a minute, right? So let's say some people say it's not scalable. You know what? Adoption takes time. If people start spending Litecoin, it can facilitate everyone that spends it until it becomes so mainstream that we need to move on to a second layer solution, right? But right now, Litecoin just works. And I realized being in Bitcoin that all these people, they're not going to spend Bitcoin, bro. They're going to spend Bitcoin when Bitcoin becomes like $500,000. And now they're like, okay, we can spend it. Right. So I feel like transitory, moving from the legacy system to the crypto system, you need a coin like Litecoin that is 10 years, zero downtime, 100% uptime, high security, decentralized, proof of work. And here's another thing I get confused about. Blockchain is Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin was the first blockchain, and the first blockchain was proof of work, right? And now everybody's trying to change the definition of a blockchain. No, if you're not proof of work, you're not really a blockchain. You're just
right.
You know what I mean? So I believe there's only two coins in this world right now that flew under the radar, and now it has become too decentralized, and no other coin, no new coin is ever going to do proof of work, because as soon as it becomes valuable, it will be 51% attacked. But Bitcoin, Litecoin, you can't.
Well, they got through that because everybody's ignoring it at the time.
Yeah. It flew under the radar, and now it's just become too decentralized to do anything about it. Yeah.
So Gensler, right, SEC, was saying that other than Bitcoin and Ethereum, he thinks everything else might be considered a security, but those he does not consider to be a security, he deems them to be truly decentralized. I guess if he's saying that, he's not naming Litecoin. Is he grouping that into that realm? And have you talked to Charlie about that? I'm just curious what his thoughts might have been.
Gensler actually said Bitcoin and Litecoin before. So I don't know if he left it out this time, but Ethereum
I just saw a
is
quote
not.
Recently, so okay.
Ethereum is not 60% pre-mine, bro. Come on, man. Look. You can argue all you want because everybody loves Ethereum. 60% pre-mine, that's BS. Okay, Litecoin and Bitcoin are the only ones that never had a pre-mine.
Yeah,
and that's why it's not a security. They wasn't selling Litecoin after pre-mining and at a certain price to people, and they all became rich. No. What defines a security, it's Bitcoin and Litecoin does not fall under security because it never had a pre-mine. It never sold any of its shares or coins to other people before it launched. You know what I mean? So,
all right, I want to talk to you about the bumpy ride that you've been on, because as we said before, it's not a straight line success. People think it's bottom left, top right. It's not. It's like this meme that we've all seen. The line goes all over the place to get to the top, right? Well, with Litecoin, you bought in and then it dropped, and everybody was probably questioning your sanity. Like, what the hell is John doing? But you held on, right? I don't think you sold at the bottom when it dropped, right? You held. So you hodled. Share the bumpy ride with me about everybody around you questioning your intelligence and your conviction. And you probably questioned your own conviction when that was happening. It's normal. It's a normal attribute of human trait, right? Tell us about that bumpy ride.
Jay, I'm glad you said that. I don't like it when people act like they're so tough and they're like they don't get stressed out, or bro, like if there's doubt in other people's mind, there's doubt in my mind too. But it's just that I've been in this place before, and I refuse to let this doubt overtake me, right? I can let thoughts come across my mind, but I'm not going to dwell on it and let it like plant a seed or in my head, right? So I remember when I left, and then Litecoin hit $22. I remember where I was at. I was at my friend's basement in his couch sleeping. and Litecoin hit $22, and that was like literally 90% of 80 something percent of my
Oh,
portfolio
God.
just gone, right?
Yeah.
And I said to myself, this is not hard enough, because I still had an option. There's a saying in Bitcoin, Plan B, right? Like Plan B is like Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I truly believe, as a man, if you want to succeed at anything, you don't need Plan B. You just got to have Plan A. No options, nothing to fall back on, nothing. Just burn the bridges and you just go forward, right? And I remember, like, when it hit that low, I still had an option to go back and stay at my ex's aunt's place.
Yeah.
So I had a place to go, right? The reason I sold my house was because I knew it was going to get tough, and if it got tough, I would go back to my home. So I remember saying it's not hard enough, and then I just knew the deeper the valley, the higher the mountain. I knew that in my life. I knew the tougher it gets, the better the story. And I said to myself, like, John, you're literally writing a book right now, and this book will
Mm.
not be great if this was the bottom. You know what I mean? Because, like, if I'm being honest with myself, I literally had an option. I had a way out. And so, being honest with myself, I had to say, no, this can't be, because this is I can't tell people that I hit rock bottom. I'm imagining this while I'm sleeping on this couch, right, like a freaking lunatic, right? And then and I just kept pushing. I just kept pushing. I knew that if I stayed on the course and did it, it would eventually come back up. And Charlie Lee also told me, he's like, John, if you can hold for 4 years in crypto, because it's written in the code, the halvings every 4 years. I call it the crypto Olympics. If you can hold on for 4 years, you'll eventually ride the Lambo, and you'll eventually live in a penthouse or a house or whatever. And like I said, I'm a simple man with a simple plan. When somebody way smarter than me tells me something, I simply just believe it. I don't question it, and maybe I should, right? Maybe I should, but I don't question it, and I just take their word for it, and I just believe it. And then that's one of the things that helped me to get through that 22. And then when I hit really rock bottom was when me and my ex split,
Mhm.
and Charlie, my mom at the time didn't have a place to stay, and Charlie gave me some money to take care of my mom. And that's why I love Charlie. He's my one of my inspiration, my mentor, and my friend. And I got my mom this like small little apartment, and COVID hit, and I was stuck in Texas in this in the side room of my mom's apartment in a $200 mattress, and I had no furniture. I just had, like, the vacuum cleaner box. I used that as my nightstand, and I was just like, I was living like a freaking, like, a homeless person, right?
Yeah.
And then I got in a fight where I helped this 6'4", like, crazy white dude that was on coke, was beating up people in the street. So I choked him out in 30 seconds. And while I was choking him, I threw myself on the back because I couldn't get leverage. So I threw myself backwards, and his 260 pounds and my 200 pounds landed on concrete. So I broke three bones in my body, three ribs,
Oh.
and I put him to sleep. I walked away. Cops got him. I said I would do it in 30 seconds to the people that I was sitting with, and I did it in 30 seconds, but they didn't know I broke three bones. So I was stuck at my house, COVID, broken bone, in bed.
Broke too. Everything's like that.
Litecoin went down, Bitcoin went down to 3K. I think oil hit negative.
Yep.
I
Remember
was like,
that?
there's a pandemic. I have no more options left. I said, God, this is it. This is the bottom. We going up from here. And it
Yeah.
truly, 2020 was my best year. It I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this was the bottom. This was no more plan B. This was it. And we go up from here. And then in 2020, yeah, it literally, yeah, changed the trajectory of my financial life.
John, what is your superpower?
My superpower is being brutally honest with myself. And if if I make a mistake, or if that's why I don't hate people. I don't have an ego. I don't have pride. I hold my opinions very loosely because I know I'm not that smart, which means I could be wrong a lot,
Yeah.
right?
I say the
So
same thing about myself all the time,
yeah,
man.
so
Yep.
it's brutally being honest, and I think my mind, my willpower, I've tested my willpower, and my willpower is stronger than anyone that I know. Anyone that I know. And it's not even just like, do you work out hardest in the gym? When I go to the gym, they call me a monster. I don't use supplements. I don't use pre-workout. I don't use
Yeah.
protein shakes. I don't do anything. Why? People ask me why, John. You could gain so much. I'm like, because I'm in the business of proving to myself every day that I'm naturally going to work on my work ethic every single day and push myself every single day. And if I do overcome those challenges, it's because of my willpower that did it, not some chemical that aided me, that not some chemical that made me feel like, oh, you know what I mean? So I just feel like in my 43 years of life, I built the willpower, and I proved to myself that my willpower is so strong that I can take on anything and be able to arise.
Even Superman has a weakness. So tell me what your kryptonite is.
I have a low self-esteem. I mean, I know I talk all this, but like rejection or not being approved by someone. I think that's maybe because I didn't grow up with a loving father, even though he did his best, and
Sure.
I'm so grateful that I always have a chip on my shoulder, and I always want the approval of the people that I love and like. And
Sure.
once I don't get it, I go into this like weird emotional state. So I try to be tough, man, but man, I cry so much. I'm a crybaby, man. I'm so emotional, and I think I'm a tough guy. I'm not scared to fight anyone.
Sure.
But man, I cry a lot, man, by myself. During interviews sometimes, during live streams sometimes, I just can't. So I'm very emotional. I wish I wasn't emotional, and I wish I didn't care about people's approval. But
You're self-aware, though. I've noticed you're very self-aware, which is a very strong characteristic that a lot of people are lacking. And so just knowing and being aware that you have these things going on, both positive and
yeah,
negative in your life, is the key. Most people ignore the negative things about themselves and their personality traits, but I can see that you're clearly self-aware, which I think is probably one of your attributes, right? And you're
yeah,
honest. Like most people wouldn't tell you that. Look, I get people on the show and they'll be like, I don't really have a weakness. I'm like, the fuck out of here. This guy's not being honest. I love the
yes.
honesty.
Self-awareness is part of being brutally honest with yourself.
Yes.
And because other people see it,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Yeah, if you're not
I
brutally
question you.
honest,
Some people may not
yeah,
even see it. They're just oblivious to it, I guess. Right.
yeah,
Right.
because I learned this. Whenever you judge other people, you're no longer looking within yourself. So whenever I
Hmm.
start judging people, I look within myself to see if I'm projecting something that I'm not seeing.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's really important to check yourself when you start to judge and to be be mean to other people for some reason, and then you just have to check yourself, and maybe there's something you need to control in your heart
Yeah.
that you know what I mean. So,
I think there's two emotions that we have. That's it. Fear and love.
mm.
Everything else is a derivative.
Fear and love, and it all goes down on that
Yeah.
section.
Exactly.
Yeah, in
That's it.
different words,
Right.
but that's it. Fear and
If you
love.
could,
Yeah,
if people could, if they could understand that, then they'd be more loving, and then they have all these positive things in their life. And anything that it's just get past the fear, like you said in the early
yeah.
interview. Just you got to overcome your fear, which you clearly have done because you've been through the worst of the worst. So,
Jay, you kind of concluded what I was saying today because remember I said when my son was born, I felt this love that I've never felt
yeah,
before, and it transformed me. But also, my biggest transformation when I was younger was to face that fear
yeah,
and to overcome it, and that changed my life. So you're right, man. Once you really understand love, it will change you, like to
yeah.
the core. And if you truly face your biggest fear, it would truly change you deep within in your core as well. So you're right. There's only love and fear. You got to really understand both and overcome the other in order for you to win in life, I think. Yeah.
That's right. And when you were telling a story, I try not to do my stories myself, but I interject sometimes. I got to say something because I was thinking about it earlier. I didn't say it. I don't want to interrupt your story. You have an amazing story. When my daughter was born, I'll never forget it. It was the most
Yeah.
amazing thing ever. So she comes out. They put her on the weighing table. She's crying hysterically. They're wiping all the blood and all the goo off her and all this kind of stuff. And she's crying, and the nurse says, come over here, come over here. This is your daughter. And she's like, what's her name? I said, we're calling her Jada. And so I put my hand out, and she's hysterically crying. She goes, put your hand. She'll grab it. She grabbed my finger, my little pinky, right? Her whole hand around my pinky. It's a beautiful thing. And she's like, talk to her. So I go, hey, Jada. And as soon as I said that, the crying stopped, and she just like was like trying. They can't see, right? She's looking around. She knew the voice because I used to sing to her in the womb when she was in the belly, right? And she stopped, and she was like she knew. Everybody else was talking. Jada crying. And I used to suffer from anxiety deeply because of the business I was running. I went to the hospital multiple times thinking about a heart attack. They're like, no, you just have anxiety. I'm like, why would I have anxiety? My wife's with me. She's like, what are you, crazy? We have lawsuits. We have business we're trying to sell. We're raising money. Like, there's all kinds of things. And I'm like, but when I had my daughter, this is God's honest truth, I never had anxiety ever again.
Wow.
She solved my anxiety. I was missing something, and she solved it. It's amazing. That's what I'm saying.
Bitcoin doesn't fix everything. Love fixes this.
Love, bro. Yep. It's not Bitcoin, it's love. You know what I mean?
That's incredible.
Got a little tear in my eye telling that story. But now listen, okay, I got a couple more questions here. Do you seek approval or affirmation from other people? I ask everybody on the show this. And what I mean by that is growing up, did you want to make your parents proud? Did you want to make your spouse proud at one point? And what about your two kids? Like, did you want to make them proud? Is some of this driven by, I want affirmation from my family. I want to provide for them, but I also want them to be proud of me too.
That was my main thing. I said, you may not believe, they thought I was gambling. They thought I was like, committing business suicide. And I was like, you know what? You know my track record. This is the reason why I was so upset with them. You know my track record. You know what I'm capable of, but you doubt me now? You think all of a sudden I did all that and now I'm just going to ruin my life over some internet money, right? So yeah, I remember when I was playing with my son in the playground, and all the boys that were there with their mother would do something cool and look at me, wanting a man's affirmation. I think that's built in us as a boy. Mm-hmm. You want that affirmation. You want that approval of a man, of a leader, of someone. So, my dad came to one football game, my whole football career in my junior high school, whatever. I think I've been to every single one, except for a few, right, of my son's game. And, even my ex said this. It's like, John, even though we don't click, I've never met a dad that can play with a son 6 hours straight and laugh and literally not just watch the kid, but like become a kid and like play with them, So for me, like when I'm with my kids, I'm literally giving my 100% to really spend time with them. And I truly enjoy it. And some dads hate it. Like they just watch their kids like, hurry up, let's go, whatever. I cook for them. I do everything. So I think that's one thing that I realized growing up. Like, I will never be too busy for my children. I will never not tell them I love them. I'll never tell, because I hugged my dad one time in my life, I think. And I told him I loved him one time in my life, because now it's just become so awkward. You can't say it, right? But to my kids, every time I kiss them in their mouth, their forehead, whatever. And I appreciate America for that. Because American culture taught me the importance of saying I love you, supporting your children and hugging them and encouraging. So I 100% believe that as a man, if you grew up without affirmation, if you grew up without getting that approval, that you will grow up to chase it. And sometimes chasing it allows you to succeed, because when you chase it, it's never there. And you're chasing this thing that you'll never achieve, you'll never get. But then the true man, a man with willpower, will use that as fuel to get to a place where he wants to be. Listen, I hate the fact that I want affirmation. I hate the fact that I want the approval of my friends. I hate it. It makes me feel weak. It makes me feel like a little, girl, right? But at the end of the day, that's what makes me me. That's what makes me have a willpower and to be able to go so hard, you know. And that approval is never coming. We both know that. I missed it. I missed it as a kid. It's not coming back, and but now I just want to make sure that I give the most affirmation and approval
Get it
to
from
my
your
two.
kids. That's all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just give it to my kids and make sure that they don't grow up and with a chip on their shoulder and stuff like that.
You don't want an empty hole in their heart, right?
No. That's
Yeah.
yeah. I want when I go through a hard time, I don't think about my dad. You know, I want them when they go through the toughest time in their lives, which they will, that the first person they think of is me, and I'll come running. And now I have the resources and the finance to make sure that I take care of them in any circumstances, right? The first time I preached was in front of Houston Detention Center. This was 16, 17-year-olds. They're about to get life, and they're in this jail.
Juvenile, yeah.
Juvenile. And it's so many of them. There was over 100 people in orange jumpsuits.
Mm-hmm.
And my team comes out and they're doing all these dances and whatever, and they're all laughing at him, mocking at him. And then, I go in there and I feel like I needed to preach on my knees. I felt that strongly. So I go up to the center and I got on my knees and I started preaching from my knees, and everybody started to straighten up. And I said, guys, listen, if my son became a crackhead, if my son became a mess up in life, my love for him will never change. I may be disappointed, but the power of my love will never change no matter what he does. And then I said, that's God's love for you guys.
It's unconditional. Yeah.
Bro, like at the end of my preaching, except for one or two, like 98% of the people came up crying and accepted Jesus. The hardest criminals that were sitting there mocking everyone literally came up and got saved because I told them simply what love is. Because as a criminal, they realize that love goes up and down, sideways.
It's like that chart.
Yeah. And I reminded them, no, the power of love never fades. But human disappointment and emotions go up and down.
Sure.
But true love, it's so deep and wide. It does not.
That's why
it
you
is not
see
volatile.
murderers' parents go into prison to see them. They love them. They wish they didn't do the things that they did.
Yeah.
There's probably some psychological disorder for some of the people, and that's just a genetic makeup that they were born with, but they are still their offspring and their kids.
And most of them were there because they were never loved. They were never loved properly. That's why they went
most
into
of the people
the gang.
were left alone.
Yeah. So I remember that day like it was yesterday. It was my first time I ever preached, and it was the most amazing thing to see a gangster who's sitting like this, mocking everyone, straighten up here, straighten up again, get up, cry, walk up, and says, I surrender to Jesus. So I just thought that was a cool story. Yeah.
Good friend of mine, Maurice Worthy, his father, Mark Worthy. I told you I got sick recently. And so I was never a big believer in spiritual stuff, God, religion. My parents didn't bring me to church. Just wasn't in my life. Yeah. He's always talked about it with me because he speaks at the church. He's involved with the church a lot. He actually, this came to mind, he goes to the prison locally here in New Jersey, and he talks to kids. He does exactly what you did. I don't know that he got on his knees like that, but he does exactly what he did. And he told me too, he's like, when I go in there and I talk to these guys, some of these guys, they can't be saved. Like you said, not all of them do that. They're tough to the bone. Like they're feeling what everybody else is feeling. They just don't want to show anybody, right? He goes, I just don't make eye contact. That's it. You just move on. It's fine. I try, but I can't press because of these guys, they'll come at you, right? He's like, you just got to walk away. When they're ready, they'll come. And some have done that over the years. They'll eventually say, you know what? Hey, you're talking to all these guys. They're trying to be tough about it, you know? What the hell are you talking about these guys? You know, they do this kind of shit. And then he has a private conversation with them. And they slowly get there, you know? He came to my house when I was sick. I couldn't come out of bed. Knocks on my door. I don't see him very often in life, you know? And he gave my wife these pamphlets about God. I think Jason needs to read this. I was like, yeah, I can throw it off to the side. When I was at my lowest point, that's when I started to read them. And I realized that all this stuff was coming at me People were like, I put it out on Twitter, John, and hundreds of people sent me DMs, and a lot of them mentioning God and stuff. I was like, man, I think God's talking to me through other people. I never had that experience in my life. Never had that experience in my life. I never understood what people were saying. God's talking to me. I'm like, what are you hearing voices in your head? He didn't talk to me that way. It was maybe I was closed up too much. He did it through other people. And at the lowest point that I had, I got a text message from a good friend of mine from high school who I haven't heard from in about a decade. He sends me a text message. His name's Brian Hirschplan. He sends me a text message and it says, I know you're going through a lot. I don't have the exact words, but he said, I know you're going through a lot right now, but on the other side, comma, we will. The we will was a mantra that my high school coach created. It was a sign. We all touched it when we went in and out of the locker room. He created that sign when we were in high school. We were kids back in the 90s. He's had that sign in the locker room for over 25 years. Thousands of kids have touched that sign. And the essence of it is that we together, we, the people in this room, we are a unit. We are a team. We can willpower. You've used that word a lot, willpower. I thought it was very interesting. Again, I think God's talking to me. We can willpower anything together. Individually, we can't. And if one of you doesn't believe, you must have faith and believe in the mission and put the work in. If we all do that, we could accomplish great things together. That season, that team went to the state finals. We lost by one play at the end of the game.
Dang.
Basically, almost won the state championship. He himself was a two-time state championship football player when he was a quarterback in high school. And you want to talk about the divinity of this, like how divine it was. Who did we play against in the state finals? His old high school coach. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this up, right? He willpowered it by creating a collective unit of people that believed and had the faith. We put in all the hard work. We went game by game by game and one loss in that regular season. Went all the way to the state finals against Brick Township High School, Coach Warren Wolf, a legendary high school football coach. They're making a movie about this guy. He's got 370-something wins in his career.
Wow.
13 state championships. We were the 13th that he beat us on back in 1994. No, actually, we were the 12th. I'm sorry. We were the 12th, and then he got another one, I think, like years later. He retired. This guy was a legend, John. He was the mayor of the town. He was the superintendent. He was the athletic director. He was the board of freeholder in politics. I mean, he was just like, this guy, they got to make a movie about this guy. It's like, there's only a handful of coaches in the United States that have ever done what he's done, right? And we got to play against him in that game. But again, it was the willpower. And I've lived my life by that. When I ran my company, we used to have that mantra. I was on the sun. In my gym, after we're done, I'm going to show you on Zoom or something. I'm going to go over there and show you this. In my gym, I have the sign. So when you're saying willpower this whole time, I know we're wrapping up the interview. I just keep thinking, I'm like, damn, bro. It's like something's happening here, man.
I kind of want to share this with you because I feel like I need to, right? In 2009, I went to South Korea to help with North Korean refugees that were saved and that was living under a church, and government was providing for them.
Wow.
And when I came back in, they took my green card, and they were going to deport me, okay, because of all the crimes and all the trouble that I got into. Mm-hmm. And they took my green card, took me in a room, and gave me a court date, and then I left. And for like the next year and a half, I went in front of the judge, and judge opened my book. It was like literal, like I was down here, the judge was up here. He opened the book, and he started to read all the things that I've done. And he looked at me, he put his glasses down, he looked down at me, he says, "So you think you're a tough guy, huh?" I said, "I'm going to show you tough guy. You better be ready." And at that moment, I didn't say anything. I just knew I was guilty. Like I had nothing to say. And I sat there and I was like speechless because I knew I was guilty, right? I wasn't trying to make an excuse. I just knew. And then when the day came, the court date came, 2 days before, I was in California, and I was with the CEO, and the CEO wanted to hire me at her restaurant. She prays for me, and she says this: "I feel like this is the closing of the door to your old life and opening of the door to your new life." Okay. She prays this over me, basically like prophesying over me. So I come back, and right before we go into the courtroom, my lawyer says, "Please do not tell too many truth. The prosecutor wants you, and you have the hardest judge that anyone can get in the Dallas, Texas area right now. He said, just don't tell too much truth. And I looked at him straight in his eyes and I said, listen, what it's not up to you, bro. It's not up to me. I'm just gonna go in there, do what I'm supposed to do, and let the results let it be, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And then right when I'm walking in, I get a text message from a girl that I started morning prayer with. We used to pray like every six o'clock in the morning. She texts me, literally, I feel like this is the closing of the door to your old life and opening of the door to your new life. This person, that Cali person, never met. I'm getting the same exact message. I go in, and the judge, they asked me to come. And the prosecutor opens the book and says, da 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 da, and start going off on me. I was like, true. Yes, I did. And then one time she said, you had this fight during here. What happened? Oh, I threw the first punch and I had the gun. Like I'm literally admitting to every crime and giving more information. And the prosecutor's like, you are so screwed, bro. And my lawyer's like doing this. And, you know, she asked me all this stuff. And one question, it really so hard. He said, have you ever done drugs in front of your son? And I sat back and I said, God, I can't answer this one. And the night before, the Bible study that I did was the truth shall set you free. And the truth shall set you free kept ringing in my ear. And I looked at her and I said, yes, I have. You know? And then right before I left, I said this. Can I say something real quick, Your Honor? Whether I win or lose in this courtroom, as long as Jesus Christ is glorified, that's all I care about. And I walked down. Judge and my sister went up there to testify against me. I'm almost done. The judge says, you, prosecutor, you, lawyer, come in here. And they went back. They come back out. My lawyer pulls out his wallet, pulls a St. Francis card, and writes, you win, and slides the card to me.
No.
The judge doesn't want to hear anything, right? And the judge says this. He looks at me and he says, son, this is closing the door to your old life.
No.
And opening up the door to your new life. No, he says this, and guess what?
Yeah.
Jay, he literally cleared all my record.
Wow. He expunged it. Wow.
Bro, like I am like no record now. I am clean slate. And it says in the Bible, I will make it white as snow, clean slate. And I literally went from a life of crime, deportation, and I'm about to not see my kid again. I put everything on the line, just spoke 100% honest, even admitted, and they recorded everything.
Yeah.
And then this woman tells me one message verbally. Another girl texts me in written form, and the judge verifies it. And I like,
said, Judge, what? You got to read this text.
Yeah, and then, now I'm a U.S. citizen. Wow. I wouldn't have been able to get a U.S. citizen with all those crazy things that I've done, right?
Honesty sets you free, yeah.
Man, so that, do you understand? I only became brutally honest after I became a Christian.
Yeah.
Because it was only at that time I realized truth really is powerful, and I'm a broken man who is in need of a savior, right? So now every time I go out, I just know how insufficient I am and how much mercy and grace I've received as a gangster, that I give mercy and grace to all the people that I meet, and I give them 15 chances to make mistakes until I'm like, okay, it's good. You can do it. So whenever you got sick, I sent you a little message too. I say overcomer.
I did.
Right?
I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
So overcomer.
I appreciate that.
I mean that. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're going through. Okay. If you belong to him, he will keep sending his people your way to tell you, you're mine. You're mine. You may not like me. You're mine. And it's so crazy that you got out of that sickness, with God in your heart now.
Yeah. I can't thank you and everybody else enough for sending me those messages. You know, it's Jason, who you talked about earlier, good friend of yours in your top 5, one of my top 5 as well. Every single day, no joke, John, he sent me multiple texts throughout the day. Get up and move, Jay. Stop laying down. Get off those damn pain meds. You're going to be fine. How you feeling right now? Multiple times, morning, afternoon, night. Like, he didn't forget about me. A lot of people on Clubhouse, so I'm always on there talking. A lot of those people sent me DMs and shit. But Jason, every single day. Every day. We know this guy's a billionaire. He doesn't need to do shit, right? He genuinely cares about people. He's a good guy. He really is a good. He's a really good guy. Dude, I love my mom to death, my dad. They didn't do that every day. I told my mom and she goes, well, you didn't text me every day. I'm like, you're missing the point here.
I mean, Jason reached out to me when I was going through my split too. Yeah, he's a really unique individual. He has all the money in the world, but at the same time, he cares so much about nothing. Like people that should be nobody to him, but he takes the time to mentor them.
You know why?
Or
he
talk to
came
them.
from a tough situation too.
Right.
That's, right?
Right.
He gets it. He gets it. He didn't forget, bro. He's not going to forget. It's part of who he is. I'll tell you right now, I told my story, everything that happened and how, I think God spoke to me and he introduces me to this guy who I interviewed yesterday. His name is Anthony Gordon. Super connector guy. He puts a lot of things together. Jason just said, I think you should talk to this guy. I was like, why? He goes, just do it. Here's the guy's phone number. He's like major connector. You'd never hear this guy. He's a kind of behind the scenes, puts everything together kind of guy, I'm like, all right. So I get on the phone with this guy. New York Times bestselling author, yada, yada. He goes, you got to write a book. I said, I want to write a book about this. I want to call the book We Will. That's what I want to do, right?
Ooh.
And he goes, I'm making it happen. I was like, what? He goes, I know the people at Simon Schuster. It's going to happen. I'm like, wait. He goes, everything that we put you through, there's a publishing company and they have like an arm on it that does. He goes, you'll be a New York Times bestseller. They guarantee it. I'm like, wait, what? He goes, 100%. Let's do it. And I'm like, wow. It's like Jason knew without knowing. I told him and he goes, yeah, I knew something like this would happen. I go, did you know the book? He goes, nah, I just know. He knows, right? Like I was like, fuck, and so that's happening, brother. Like I'm writing that book.
I'm talking to a New York Times bestseller, right?
We'll see if that happens for me.
Let's go.
And I talked to my coach about it. I said, you cool with that? He's like, absolutely. He goes, I want you to get the message out. I was like, okay. Because it's his thing, not mine, He created We Will. I didn't create We Will. Listen, John, I appreciate coming on the show. We're about an hour and a half here, about 90 minutes. Your story is so fucking inspiring, bro. Like, you had tears in my eyes. I didn't show it, but I'm looking down a lot. I love it. You're vulnerable. You're honest. You're transparent. Bitcoin maxis need to learn a thing or two from you, brother. That's all I could say. They may not agree with everything you do with the Litecoin. Who cares? You're a great, great person, and I'm glad we got to become friends. And I wish you all the best. And I'll tell you when it goes live. But listen, everybody, Johnny Litecoin. There you have it. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.